Boone, West St. Louis.
Thank you. Like to inquire from the representative from St. Louis City.
Does the gentleman from St. Louis City, Merideth District yield?
I do.
Please proceed.
How you doing?
Little frustrated.
Here we go again.
Here we go again. Deja vu all over again.
You know, when I was running for this seat, they called a special session to lower taxes for the very wealthy, and it overwhelmingly went to the very wealthy.
Yeah.
Now you made a little video. Can you tell me a little bit about the video that you produced and put out?
Sure. I produced is an overstatement. You know, I did it on my iPhone for TikTok, I think. But it was talking about how it was really a tax cut for billionaires.
Yes.
And that, notably, the entities testifying for it were the billionaires. It was the Koch brothers group and Sinkfeld's group.
That's right. And so now we're in a situation where corporate profits are at a 70-year high.
Right.
So whenever they want to spend their money their way, do they? No, they use it for stock buybacks, tax breaks, and that sort of thing. So they advocate, after stealing from the American workers, for record profits, and then advocate
unprecedented profits.
Unprecedented in a 40-year inflation process that they've helped create by stealing from the working people.
Amen.
And now we're going to reward them.
Yeah.
And take more money that should be allocated to invest in our workers, in our workforce.
That's exactly right.
And so whenever they hoard so much money and the income goes completely to the top, we're going to reward them for that?
Yeah, and really take away the only real incentive we have as state policy to encourage them to reinvest their dollars into workers, into investing in infrastructure and technology, into growing their business, and reward hoarding instead.
Yeah, and so you hear where they talk about corporations or people sitting on their couch.
Yeah.
You know, writing a check. You know, we're not talking about those folks. We're talking about people who are hoarding the money, that aren't investing in projects.
Because if you invest your money, like we keep hearing this, if we tax less, they're going to invest more money into workers.
They don't.
That's not what history shows.
No.
History shows the opposite. But B, the tax actually incentivizes them to invest in their workers because they get to keep 100% of the gain from the growing business, whereas if we have a higher tax on what they hoard, we're saying don't hoard it, reinvest it, grow.
And so when they reinvest, they obviously don't reinvest in the people. They reinvest in their own profits.
In this case, if they can just hoard it, yeah.
Yes, and so all that does is, in my opinion, create more of a monopoly to the very wealthy. And so whenever we just give them corporate welfare, and they don't reinvest in the communities that they're stealing from, then we've got a problem. They don't understand economic development if they're advocating for tax breaks for the wealthy again.
Agreed. Well, especially because, we hear the argument that, we're going to grow businesses. We're going to bring more businesses to our state by lowering the corporate tax rate. But when you talk to the business community, that's not going to bring any businesses here. What would bring businesses here is coming to a place where their employees and their families feel welcome and supported, not under attack. What would bring them here is not having the lowest paid teachers in the country where they're worried about whether their kids are going to get a good education.
That's right.
What's going to bring them here is making sure that we invest in infrastructure and public transportation rather than having the lowest funded public transportation in all of the Midwest.
That's right.
I mean, those are the things that bring businesses here. Workforce development. If we had like Tennessee had, it was talked about the other day, the bill sponsor talked about, look, Tennessee's given a tax cut. Yeah, Tennessee makes it so that every kid in Tennessee that graduates high school can go to college for free.
Yeah.
You know how much it costs to go to college in Missouri? Not free.
No.
Maybe if we were there, we could be talking about reducing taxes because we're actually investing in the things that grow business.
That's right.
We're not.
No, we're not investing. I mean, we've got an opportunity here with federal dollars to invest in infrastructure. We can't use that as a guise to lower the rich taxes. I mean, because in the long run, it's going to hurt our communities because we won't have the revenue to support our teachers and our schools and all the things
that's the reality,
that we need.
right? We have to pay our bills.
We do.
All those things that we just talked about, education, higher education, K-12, paying teachers, roads and bridges, healthcare, they all cost money. And they're the things that keep a state growing and strong, keeps a population strong, those support systems are essential for our state. But we have to pay for them.
That's right.
And we saw next to Missouri what happened in Kansas, right?
That's right.
When they did literally exactly this. Actually, this is worse than what Kansas did. What we did this summer was more like what Kansas did. But Kansas came back and undid it after the Brownback experiment failed. Miserably.
Yeah, and it's going to hurt us too. I mean, if you've got a situation where they're hoarding so much money, it's basically a transfer of wealth. We're giving them the opt-out, which means that's going to transfer that tax burden to the working class.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you right now, if you make less than $22,000 a year, you won't see a penny from this bill.
That's right.
But we've got billionaires, aside from corporate taxes, billionaires whose income tax, they're going to see tens of thousands of dollars, which frankly won't mean jack to them.
No.
But they're going to cost us this $1 billion a year, all while we're being told we can't afford to pay our teachers more. We can't afford to pay our state workers more. We can't even afford to keep up with inflation, let alone climb out of the bottom of the list of the states in the country.
Yeah, we can't be at the bottom of everything and act like we're supporting our communities at the best that we can with the tax dollars we're getting, because we're not.
No, it's a race to the bottom even further.
It's a
now.
race to the bottom.
We don't want to lose our spot at the bottom.
Right. I mean, can't we lead on anything?
Yeah, we can lead in having the lowest paid teachers in the country. We can lead on having one of the highest child mortality rates in the country. We can lead on leaving our local communities with the burden of paying for their schools and not supporting them as a state, so that our low-income communities have struggling schools that can't afford to deal with high-cost and high-need families.
Right. We've got people in the gallery here that depend on tax dollars to have a quality life right now.
That's right. Well, and we've got healthcare workers that support these people on a daily basis. People
Right.
with disabilities and folks like that need healthcare support. And the providers, they're making diddly. And they're having a nightmare hiring right now, because the only people you can get to do it are doing it out of the kindness of their hearts, because they could go work at Dollar General and make more, because our state isn't willing to give raises that keep up with the economy.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'd like to just say that, we have special interest groups who represent people like the Koch brothers.
And Sinkfeld.
What if it was George Soros? Would we still be talking about tax cuts for George Soros? I doubt it. Would they support that? I don't know.
I don't know. Honestly, if he'd give to their campaigns, they might.
I made a comment in a forum about these tax cuts, and Rex Sinkfeld, and you know who gave to my opponent 2 days later? Max. That's right. Rex
Max
did.
Donation from Rex right after you talked about it.
That's
Yeah.
right. And so whenever
when we talked about David Humphreys, another billionaire, giving over $1 million to HRCC a few years ago, and we came out talking about it, the very next day, another $1 million dropped.
Yeah.
Another $1 million from one person.
yeah.
Dropped to pay for Republican campaigns. And we wonder why what we're seeing here is a handout to billionaires, where the people that testify are the same billionaires that pushed the Brownback experiment that destroyed Kansas if they weren't able to undo it, which they were. And guess what? It's going to be a lot harder for us to undo it here in Missouri, because we've got things like the Hancock Amendment that are going to make it a lot harder to raise taxes back up when we realize this was a failure.
Yes. Can you imagine
and our tax rate is already lower than Kansas's was then.
Can you imagine being a working person like I did this weekend? I hung sheetrock. That's what I do. I'm a construction guy.
Sure.
I don't have enough money to buy a politician. I don't have enough money to buy government policy. These super PACs are killing Missouri, and Republicans are letting it happen.
You're not
They're
wrong.
doing it in front of everybody.
You're not wrong.
And it's a shame.
You're not wrong. And I'll tell you right now, go talk to those folks at your doors you said you talked to this summer, and ask them how they feel about a corporate tax cut. A corporate tax cut being a priority here of the Missouri legislature, getting rid of the corporate tax entirely for $1 billion a year, or if they'd rather see our teachers get a pay raise.
Right.
Because guess what? $10,000 a year for every teacher in this state? I think that's something most Missourians would support based on what they make right now. $10,000 would still not make them paid that well compared to other jobs.
Right.
And yet that would cost us $800 million a year. less actually than this tax cut will take from our revenue.
So if you can cut taxes from the very wealthy and continue to do that, the end result is government fails. Society fails. We don't support, we won't lead in education. We won't be able to keep up with other nations. We'll be undereducated. I mean, it's to a point where pay your
frankly,
fair
that's what
share
they
of
want. The bill
taxes.
sponsor just said good.
Yeah,
I mean, the fact is, their goal is to tear down these institutions.
That's right.
They don't want public education anymore. Well, that's the largest part of our budget right now. They don't want Medicaid anymore. That's the largest part of our budget right now.
Right.
Gentlemen, please state your point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask the gentleman from St. Louis City to refrain from personal attacks, as I was just personally attacked, according to the House rules. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentlemen from St. Louis City, would you please refrain from any attacks of any kind, and let's just discuss the bill. Thank you. Please proceed.
You know, I thought that pointing out someone's comment on the bill would not be a personal attack unless the member doesn't want his comment to be heard. And the fact is, that's what we're dealing with here. And it's not happening in secret. It's happening in open. Right now, there is an open attack on our public schools
That's right.
to privatize them and make money off of them.
For crony
There is an
capitalism.
open attack
Crony
on
capitalism.
Medicaid to get rid of it. I mean, this body literally ignored the Constitution and a vote of the people, desperately trying not to fund health care with Medicaid expansion because they are that opposed to it. So is it a surprise they want to take away our revenue for a billionaire tax cut in order to make it harder for us to pay for those things in the years to come? No, it's not a surprise at all. It fits right with what they're saying right in front of us.
Can you imagine being a state legislator and rooting for government to fail? To fail the representation of the people?
Sure can't.
That's unbelievable.
I sure can't.
It's unbelievable.
And yet, though, it's about maintaining power.
It is. It's about power.
It's about maintaining power. And if what they can do is cause government and education and all of the things, roads and bridges, to fail, it's an opportunity for them to go make money on private enterprises in those areas.
That's right.
And it's a way for them to then go back to their voters and say, look how bad government is. You should vote for people that know government's bad because look how bad it is. Well, y'all made it bad.
That's right. When you root
When
for
you
it to fail,
underfund it, it's going to fail.
That's right. It's going to fail, and that's exactly what they want. They want government to fail, which means our state will fail. We won't
Exactly.
lead in anything.
Nope, but they'll keep power.
That's right.
I think that's what they hope for. Or maybe we'll see what happened in Kansas happen here. Brownback's experiment failed miserably, and guess what? They've got a Democratic governor again, don't they?
That's right. And you know, we've got to take tax raises to the voters, but we can't take tax cuts to the voters. I think that's insane.
Apparently.
I mean, maybe we should work on a bill for that.
I'd be open to that.
All right. Well, I'll work on it.
Thanks, gentlemen.
I yield. Thank you.